What's up everybody? Welcome back to Make It Kustom. I'm Carl Fisher, and on this week's episode we are going to work on the Model A, and I'm going to install the floor pans that I bead rolled for it. Now I did the bead rolling on this, and it predates us having YouTube, so I apologize on that. We might have a little bit of time-lapse footage to show you, but other than that, these bead rolled panels, I did not pre-stretch those, and a lot of you guys are asking me whether or not I pre-stretch. When's a good time to do that? Well, there's a time and place for every technique, and in this case, I did not need to do pre-stretch on those panels. It makes them easier to make, and I'll tell you all about why in this episode. Also, we are going to plug weld those panels down. So the interior structure of this is all pre-made. All those bead rolls follow these lines, and I'm going to show you how I like to plug weld stuff down to install these floor pans, as well as just a little bit of the general tinkering that's going to get us there. So I got to put the body back on the chassis, I got to put the body mounts back on, I've got to add a couple of mounts for things that will be bolted into the floor structure for the interior, such as the gas tank, and I'm going to pre-lay out a couple of threaded holes so that I can mount my seat structure later on. I'm trying to keep all that stuff hidden. I don't really want hardware from underneath, so I'll show you a little bit of that. But most of all, it's going to be installing the bead rolled panels that I made for that body. That's happening on Make It Kustom right now. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Stick with us. It's going to be a good one. Alright, let's see what we got. This is just tacked together. It might not totally fit yet, but it's got to be close. So hopefully you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. Basically, these gussets are something that, stock would have had some gussets here for the pillar, and that is to strengthen You know, like this is the latching point here. So this in and out needs a bit of strength, and it doesn't hurt to have that gusset there. So that's why I incorporated that. This is gonna be unboltable. So what I was talking about installing the floor, I'm trying to think ahead always. So I needed to know where I'm gonna have to slug these braces. These are my floor braces. I want to actually be able to thread into there in a blind hole so that you don't see underneath it. It just threads in with a bolt. The nut is internal in these tubes. That's why we've got to think ahead and do the seat brace now before I put the floor down. I want to put a bolt here. I want to put a bolt here. Same thing on the other side, there and there, so that this seat brace is removable, but also bolts directly into that subframe for a nice hidden hardware look. I might end up doing another brace that comes, you know, along the back and connects there and there. That might be a bit of overkill, but I think it would be helpful to at least have a brace there to have the back of the seat to be able to mount into something. But I really like the look of that. I think it works with kind of our style. And that's it. So probably gonna make this brace across there next, get that figured out, and then we'll start putting our slugs in there, 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 and back there. I also have a gas tank mount that goes in behind here, in behind this brace. It's right on the other side. There's a nice spun stainless gas tank. And those mounts that hold onto the gas tank will be going in here and this brace as well. Bam, bam. Those are the things that we've got to figure out before we put the floor down. So that's what I'm gonna do next. So got the seat brace in. I did kind of change the plan a little bit as I went. I didn't need as many points of contact like for bolting. For how strong this thing is, I feel super comfortable with having like 2 3/8 bolts in the back and then 4 5/16 bolts in the front. And I think it's plenty strong enough, all made out of 10 gauge. We didn't have to go into the floor supports here and here, just at the back corners there. I think it looks sweet. Now I'm just gonna get the gas tank, put into the back, do the same thing, weld some bungs in there to go underneath the floor, and then we can actually finish welding all these supports here. And then we'll actually get to put the floor in. Always takes longer than you think it does, but building out that whole seat brace was nice. Now that's done and we can move on. All right, so we have made some progress. I got everything tagged down. It was a bit of work getting the seat frame all kind of put into place. I didn't really realize that I had to take it that far to get everything figured out. But I'm happy with the seat frame. It looks good. It bolts in. The gas tank mounts, I put those into the cross members back there. Got all these panels clecoed in. Now, I'm gonna start tagging down this floor, and what I wanted to show you guys is to demystify bead rolling a little bit. I bead rolled all this stuff without pre-stretch, and the reason why I was able to do that is, I think, because of the type of bead rolling I'm doing. I'm not doing, you know, just lines going straight through the panel that are trying to collect a lot of material. I'm just doing these nice little steps into the sheet metal. It's not without warping. It does have a little bit of warping. This panel in particular has a little bit. But I don't want you to be afraid of that, because really, if you're gonna be spot welding something down, as we've talked about before, when you weld something, it shrinks, right? So every time you do a tack weld, the heat is gonna just pull it together just a little bit. So even with me clecoing this down, if you don't know, these are clecos. They're used in aircraft industry for basically aligning panels that will be riveted. So just, you know, 1/8 clecos is what I'm using. But if I put a couple clecos in here, to hold this down into place, it pretty much takes the pop out of it. Like it's holding it down nice and flat. There's a little bit of tension on it, but once, you know, once it's spot welded in a bunch of spots, there's not gonna be any more, you know, oil canning in that panel. Like there's nothing in there now. So I like bead rolling without pre-stretching. I know some guys will tell you that you gotta run your English wheel on the exact pattern to stretch that. If you were to do something really deep, like if you wanted to do a heavy step or a thick bead or something like that in your floor pan, then yes, you would need to do some pre-stretching to allow that to happen without, you know, warping the crap out of your panel. But this style of bead rolling that I've done here, it doesn't need it. And so I like this style of bead rolling, number one, because it looks good, and number two, because it doesn't need to be pre-stretched. So that's why I do it this way. I'll show you another panel that I'm about to tag in here. Here's the other side of the floor pan. And this piece, it has no oil can in it at all. I did that whole thing without any oil can. I mean, there's gotta be a little bit of warpage in it somewhere, like if you really wanna look at it. But this panel, it fits so dang good, it doesn't have any of that pop. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and what I was getting to with this floor. What this video is about is tagging down this floor and showing you that bead rolling doesn't have to have pre-stretch. It has its place, no doubt, but this whole thing, I did not pre-stretch the bead roll. So now I'm gonna get into tagging this all down. I'm gonna cleco the rest of this. Ooh, we're running out of clecos. And then I'm gonna start welding it all in. The other beautiful thing about pre-drilling all your holes this way, not only can you pull the panel in and out a bunch of times and it'll align back up in the same spot, these are handy for panel alignment, not just floors, but any piece that you're making. They're just super handy to have. You'll find a million reasons to use them if you have them around. Basically, when you've got a 1/8 hole in both pieces of metal, it's easier to get a really good TIG weld, kind of spot weld. I'm gonna TIG weld these all in because I don't want the spatter in here. I don't want to do the cleanup. And if I TIG weld them all, I can just add just the perfect amount of filler that there's almost no grinding. I'm not trying to fill it up and grind it perfectly flush so that I don't see anything. I don't really care. It's a floor. You know, I'll probably try and sink the weld just a little bit low, maybe. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But what I'm trying to say, without rambling too hard, is that the reason why I like to have the hole through the base material and the floor pan, so my floor brace and my floor pan directly straight through both those, is so that I know I'm gonna get good penetration. Because if you can picture, you know, my floor pan on top of my floor brace and I've only got a hole in the top floor pan, then when you're TIG welding, your arc is gonna choose its metal. It's gonna choose one or the other. And if you don't really burn it in, it may not penetrate underneath. You might get a nice weld and see your weld you know, wet out and be plenty hot enough for your 18 gauge floor pan, but it may not have been hot enough to really penetrate your spot weld into that floor brace. So that's why I like to have a hole through both of them. Is I'll take the TIG torch, you'll see in a minute, and I kind of put it on an angle, and I'll start my weld, and because there's a hole through both panels, it will get better penetration. It will for sure burn into that second layer. That's what I got to say about that. Also, if you were to MIG weld it, it's the same thing. Your MIG weld is gonna absorb the heat into the thinnest material, which is gonna be your floor pan. And if you don't have your welder cranked up, which is another way you can do it, you know, you can just crank your welder up and know that it's gonna get that perfect penetration. It kind of helps to know and to make your weld a little bit smaller because it's penetrated quicker with less heat when you have holes through both panels. So that's all I got to say about that. Now I'm gonna Cleco this panel in and I'm gonna start welding. All right, well that's all I got for you this week on the Model A. We've got the seat frame built, got some gas tank bungs threaded in, got the floor pans all put down. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something about how I like to put spot welds on with a TIG welder. I like to pre-drill that hole and make sure that I get full penetration. It's just how I like to do it. And since there's already holes from Clecos, it's perfect. Hopefully you enjoyed this video on the Model A. I'm stoked to kind of continue on it. I feel like I've got a bit of momentum going now, so I want to keep it going. And the next thing is, well, there's a bunch of next things, so you'll have to see on the next video. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Kustom, everybody. I really appreciate the comments, the likes, the shares, all that stuff. You guys are great. I'm more than happy to answer all your comments, questions, all that. If you want to reach out to message me, you can on Instagram. I answer people's questions there too. So thanks again, everybody. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.